Welcome into Game Day Live. I'm Joey Slattery from the Target Score Podcast Network and the host of Target Score Winnipeg. With me is Vic Selby, the founder and creator of Winnipeg Sports Weekly. Vic, how you doing today? Big game tonight. Sea Bears taking on the Mamba, a chance to clinch a playoff berth. How you feeling, pal?
Doing great, man. You know what? And it's definitely different circumstances than in our previous talk there. Vibes are kind of a little bit weird after kind of a surprising loss against Calgary there, but nonetheless, I'm hyped up for the game today. I think it's going to be a good one.
Yeah, this a big chance for a bounce back game too. I mean, you look at where the Sea Bears, where they left off at home. Place where they're really used to winning, especially this year. I mean, historically, this has been a team that plays really well at home. And it was a bit of a strange one, to be fair, that game against Calgary. Before we get into tonight's game, you were there. I mean, what was your takeaway from that game? Because it seemed like there were so many breaks for the Sea Bears, right? The missed foul shots. It just seemed like there was an opportunity, for them to pull off a bit of a miracle, which we've seen in the past. But then Calgary, Armani Chaney, I mean, that shot was absolutely phenomenal. Storybook ending for Armani Chaney. I mean, if you're a fan of sports and you're a fan of basketball, doesn't get much better than that. But if you're a Sea Bears fan, it does get a lot better than that. But I'd love to get your initial take of just how that game went down.
Yeah, you know what? I really think it depends on what side you look at it from. If you're looking at it from a more pessimistic, more negative side, then you'd say that was probably as disjointed as this team has looked all season long. It was kind of the first game that, for me, watching every game, really reminded me of how last year's team looked offensively. Just wasn't really able to find rhythm. Just felt disorganized. But then, from a more positive point of view, you could say, you know what? It's like it was a weird game. It was just kind of an anomaly. These things are going to happen. They've looked a lot better than that, and while looking, in my opinion, pretty bad overall, they still gave themselves a chance to win against a team that's, maybe hasn't had the best record overall, but has been hot as of late. And I think it shows a lot that even after a really brutal start to the third quarter, they were still able to kind of just like grit it through and end up, at least giving themselves a shot at the end where it looked like they were going to win it.
It looks like I'm just putting the highlights on here. Actually, you know what? I'm just going to fast forward. We don't need to watch all of this, but I have to go back to the game-winning shot for Armani Chaney. We'll get it right here. See what it loads up. So here we are in the target score time. Like here it is too, right? 3 points away, and 2 possessions for Calgary. That's a nice take there to give themselves the opportunity to win here. But let's get to the Chaney shot.
Yeah. It had to have felt good, eh?
It had to feel good. I mean, this is the thing. It's just, look at her giving the bye-bye. Love it. You got to feel good for Armani Chaney to a degree here. But, the way he had the shot, too, was just it was just total Armani Chaney. I mean, he had 21 points. He led the Calgary in scoring. You and I talked off camera, and I'm gonna put myself out here. I thought he might have a bad game in that one, just because I thought he'd be too amped up to go. We know he's a guy that plays with a chip on his shoulder. We know he's a guy that, was once told he was no better than a practice player when he tried to come here initially. I think it was either a year or two ago, and he was open about that, under Mike Taylor. Mike Taylor said, hey, I'd love to bring you, but, to be completely transparent, I don't think you'd be more than a practice player in this league. Then he comes back, started a game for the Sea Bears, was a huge part of their of their offense and their defense, but particularly on offense for a while as a point guard before the imports started rolling in. It was a numbers game. They agree on a release. He goes to Calgary. That first game, he scores the target score winner, has an immediate impact. And one thing Dave DeViro said, the head coach of Calgary, is, he really brings speed and shooting to that team. And, that's what he was good for here. I never thought he was great in the interior, but they don't really need that with Calgary, right? They need someone to pick the tempo up. And with Javonte Brown there, they've created a nice little chemistry. But nonetheless, it was not what the Sea Bears wanted to see, and now they have one loss at home. They missed a chance to clinch the playoffs. I have a clip here from Mike Rainbow from before they left. This was on Monday, just talking about that game. Here's Jeremiah Tillman Jr. and Mike Rainbow on that game.
Yeah, I mean, it was obviously an odd day in terms of the shift in energy, and things were going our way for a stretch, and all of a sudden it felt like nothing went our way, and we had to navigate that stretch of the game that just was really a rough patch for us. felt like eventually we did find our footing, and you know, as much as it wasn't maybe the perfect day for us, we still had some opportunities to potentially win the game. You know, I guess the one fortunate thing is that we're on to Saskatchewan very quickly here.
We've been starting off slow. Even though we did go up and have a good league and stuff like that, it's just that third quarter is what killed us, and we was winning the locker room, was trying to emphasize off that to make sure we don't come out sloppy, make sure we don't get complacent just because we didn't beat them before. And honestly, the 50-50 balls, it was just bad timing for us. We let them get the run at the wrong time.
Yeah, 100% got the run at the wrong time. But one of the things that Mike Rainbow said too, I want to play this clip real quick because we'll get into it after, but there definitely was a weirdness to the end of that game.
I think there was an anomaly of things. I mean, the horn was going off during play. There was a million stoppages where the referees were talking about different things. Like the flow of the game was just odd. I mean, obviously we didn't play our best, and there's lots of things we wish we could have cleaned up. And you know, so it's just one of those days where it seemed like things were out of sorts.
Yeah, I mean, it's not an excuse, Vic, for the Sea Bears. You know, it was a little adversity within the game. It was ridiculously hot in there, even though they had the air conditioning on. Just the humidity outside was 50 degrees during game time. I mean, I was down at the sidelines doing the sideline reporting for CBC, and I was warm. I was sweating. You could see, you know, the floor was getting slippery late in that second half. Yeah, you throw in that horn that popped off, and it wasn't the greatest scenario, but nonetheless, part of me thinks that could have been the avenue for the Sea Bears to take the game, right? I mean, Calgary had the offensive possession at that point, and it seemed to be disrupting them, if anything. So, I mean, not an excuse, but certainly weird, and something that I feel like they can't lean on as an excuse, but it was just a weird game.
Yeah, oh, absolutely, and that's why I think for Sea Bears fans that are you know, kind of wondering what to take away from that game, I think we'll know a lot more after tonight. Really, just kind of see how this team bounces back from adversity like that. I actually do think it's almost good that they were able to, you know, that they unfortunately, you know, picked up a loss at home, and they don't have that pressure of, you know, if you go into a semifinal playoff game and you're hosting, you haven't lost at home and you've got that pressure. So, you know, I really think that how they respond and how they bounce back tonight is going to tell us a whole lot about the outlook for this team going forward.
Yeah, and here's another clip, Mike Rainbow talking about how this game should be serving as a wake-up call, the Calgary game that they lost at home just on Sunday afternoon.
Opportunity for us to really look at the details of the game and say, hey, some of these things maybe we were getting away with in some of the games that we had won previously. So hopefully a little bit of a wake-up call in terms of, hey, attention to detail needs to continue to improve. You know, and our compete level needs to move forward.
The interesting part in that clip, Vic, to me, is where he says maybe we've been getting away with this stuff a few games prior. I mean, they've had some close games at home where they were able to close out, and there was like that luck of Canada Life Center, right? There's times where they might not always be playing great, but call it the sixth man if you want, but there's an energy there that has seemed to have lifted them through any mistakes that were made. And maybe this was a case of, you know, they just weren't able to cover themselves this time. What did you think of that clip?
You know, it's an interesting one. And for me, I think first and foremost, it speaks to a coach that holds his players accountable. You know, I think that's been super evident all season long, whether you've covered the team or you're just watching them. You know, this is a team that they know what's expected of them. And I think that they go into each game with a clear expectation, clear game plan. And I think hearing Coach Mike say that, you know what, about last game, it's kind of to be expected. I find it very interesting that he notes that maybe this is something we've been getting away with. I'm really curious, kind of what is your impression been of that? Because I do see, like, certainly there's been an element of you get lucky, the crowd helps you out, you know, things start happening, you know, at Canada Life Center, that those kind of things do happen for the home team for sure. But I don't think this is a team that is necessarily, you know, had to catch themselves napping all the time. You know, sure, they've had periods where they fall asleep a little bit and they have to pick things up, but that's just natural. I'm really curious kind of what your thoughts were on that.
Well, this is a team that, you know, over and over, you know, Mike Rainbow's talked about, this is a game of possessions. We have to focus on the possessions and not look too far forward or too far back. There have been times on the road, particularly, and I think this is what he meant by it, is on the road, we've seen a lot of this. It's been slow starts. It's been tacky finishes, right? Where, you know, they're not able to get things done in target score time. They're giving up a lot of offensive rebounds. It's been a little bit better in recent games, but they've lost some one possession games on the road that were simply because the 50-50 battles, right? They went to the other team, and you heard Jeremiah Tillman Jr. talk about that a little bit. And when you look at that game in Calgary, take the start and finish aside, that third quarter was terrible. They were outscored 36-16, 36 points they allowed to Calgary in the third quarter alone, right? And they had a 14-point lead that ended up becoming a 14-point lead for Calgary at one point, right? And then it kind of meets in the middle, but you just run out of time. And I think, you know, he's onto something in the sense that it might not necessarily always happen at home, but this is something that we've seen on the road. And I think it was a matter of, hey, Calgary was rolling. They had 2 wins against Vancouver. It's now 3 in a row. They'll play again on Friday, and there's no games in between for Calgary. So they're feeling great right now with a week off. But this is, I do think, a moment where maybe you were looking a little bit too far ahead. You were feeling good. You were winning those 50-50 battles in the second half, or in the first half, rather, and then you come out flat in the second half. And Calgary took advantage. And this is the Dave DeViro effect, right? He's had practices with these guys now. They've got the personnel that they want. They are playing with zero stress, the Surge. As far as everybody's concerned, their season's over. Now we're talking about the Calgary Surge, and still there's no pressure on these guys, right? All the pressure right now are on the top teams that, A, need to clinch the playoffs and are jockeying for position. And let's be fair, this is an important thing for the Sea Bears. They absolutely, I'm going to go ahead and say they need home court advantage. You know, I don't want to test it on the road if I'm the Sea Bears. I don't want to see what my adversity is, because as of right now, they haven't really proven what they can do on the road. It's you know, they've had a few wins now. They've had many losses. They've all been close, but it's just more secure at home. So for me, this is a big game with Saskatoon, because you may very well be playing these Mamba. Now, you know, the Mamba have lost 4 of the last 5 games. They're not, you know, they had a bit of a streak. They started 0-4, found their footing. They're slipping a little bit now, but here's a team that's a little bit urgent. Now you've got a tight race with Edmonton. You've got a tight race with Calgary, because Calgary's creeping in now. It all of a sudden becomes a 3-horse race for those last 2 playoff spots, right? So I don't think this one's going to be an easy one for Winnipeg tonight.
100%. And the last thing the Sea Bears want is to get dragged into any sort of that mix. I think that over the last month or so, they've kind of separated themselves from the pack, or at least started to do that. And they need to maintain that separation. And I'm sure that's exactly what Coach Mike's telling them. You know, that needs to happen. You cannot fall into that group with some of those teams, because you know, even though some of them haven't played like it, there are some really, really good teams in the Western Conference with a lot of players that can hurt you. And the last thing you want to do is you end up in a playoff series in the semifinal and you're in Vancouver on an away game. Like, that's not a scenario anybody wants to see.
Believe me. Yeah, I've been to Vancouver for a playoff game.
It's
not a place you want to be in. Here's just before we I want to talk about Trey McGowan's real quick and what he did last game, but here's Mike Rainbow on what needs to happen tonight off the hop.
Yeah, we'd like to just dictate the terms of the game. I mean, we've been at our best when we're the aggressor, you know, when we're pushing the pace, and defensively we're being disruptive. And I just have to understand that if you take possessions off, it's going to catch up to you like it did previously.
Yeah, we have Josh Frey-Sam of the Winnipeg Free Press joining us here in just a minute, going to get his thoughts on the last game and as we look ahead. But I do want to point out, Vic, there was a little history made on Sunday. Wasn't his best game. He'll admit that too. But Trey McGowan's overtook Justin Wright Foreman for the all-time single-season assist leader for the Sea Bears franchise. It was really cool too, because his parents were in town to see it live. So
that's awesome.
I had a chance to ask him about it. Here's what he had to say.
It was good. Actually, I didn't know about it until probably I want to say a couple days before the game, or probably whenever you had said something about it. But I mean, it felt good. Obviously, originally it came way with a win, and I could have played better. And it was collectively we were the best. So I think just the win just kind of took away from everything. You know, the loss of it. It was really good to have my parents there. Just from the standpoint of just getting to see a familiar face. It was their first overseas game in the sense that they were able to catch since I've been overseas, whether that's CBL or Poland or Hungary. So that was really good and exciting. I got the chance to get them here for that.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I'll just clarify because I know people are going to say, "Oh, he's overseas." If it's not the United States, it's just called overseas basketball. Even though he did not, maybe at best he crossed a Great Lake. I have no idea to get here, but he says overseas. He just means to come and see a game away from home. And this is a very very big basketball family, very big sports family. His mom was a very successful college basketball player and a high school basketball coach. His dad coached high school basketball, played in the Arena Football League. His brother plays in the NBA. Bryce plays for the New Orleans Pelicans. He was drafted by the call him the hometown. They're from South Carolina, but the Charlotte Hornets drafted him a few years ago, and his sister is currently at Fulham playing college basketball, NCAA Division I, and is very likely to have a pro career of her own, whether that's the WNBA or not. But I have to say, I was very happy to see, you've got to know Trey McGowan's a little bit too, just a really good dude. He's played in the CEVL for, in the past. He's here in Winnipeg, and he's really played a suspect role in the sense that he's been getting a lot of playing time, but he's kind of the guy on that fringe of the Xavier Moon drama. If Xavier Moon comes in, it's going to affect his playing time. But I was very happy to see him accomplish this, especially so early in the season.
100%. And it was established to me so early on, just covering this team, that everybody loves Trey McGowan's. Like, he's one of those guys who's just the ultimate pro. And I think it's so impressive, like, for him to break the Sea Bears franchise record in assists this early. Like, there's still lots of time left in the season, and he didn't even start the season here. Like, it's almost easy to forget that too. Like, he was not on this roster for our first 3, maybe 4 games. And I think honestly, he's been one of the most consistent players in the league this year. I think he's been that one guy where, we talk about this team fluctuating a little bit in away versus home games. To me, he's been on it every game. And there's been a few of those away games. I remember one in Edmonton that we ended up winning. I think the last one actually, where it was like Trey was on it the whole game, and he was the one who was kind of keeping us in it. And I don't know how many times I've been watching a game at home on my TV, and I said, "Geez, thank God Trey McGowan's came to play today," because like he's ready to go. He's doing stuff. So yeah, absolutely huge season for him, and obviously we'll kind of see what happens going forward with his role, but definitely a fan favorite and deservedly so.
And before we bring Josh Frey-Sam in, big news. It's not Xavier Moon, but since the last game, a lot has happened in Sea Bears land. Jelani Watson-Gale, the closer, the original closer, re-signed with the Sea Bears for the rest of the season. For those that were, day one fans, this is a guy who was a huge fan favorite, and he was the dude. Teddy Allen's talked about him just recently. I actually talked to Teddy about this, and he was saying, back in that first year, he never had a lot of target score winners either because he didn't need them. Because when he draws that double team, he had Jelani Watson-Gale. He said one of the most clutch players he's ever played with. He was the clutch player of the year at the time. He's expected to make his debut tonight. He was traveled with the team. He's just arrived, I think on Tuesday, maybe Monday he flew in. I can't remember what day, but I mean, this is a quick turnaround for Jelani Watson-Gale. A lot of excitement. I expect he's going to be thrown in the fire tonight. And I don't know. The only thing that's a question for me is just how well he's going to play.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was curious when he got into town, kind of, is he going to go on this road trip? Is he going to play right away? I feel like the Sea Bears have kind of had an interesting experience with that already. With Nate Balamu making his debut for this season after coming over from Portugal, basically like 14 hours after arriving in Toronto, I think it was, for that one, because I think it was a school day game in Scarborough the next day. And I think you could just tell that, you can tell when somebody hasn't had a practice with the team. I do believe that Jelani's been here enough where, obviously, of course, he's got the Winnipeg experience already, but I do think that, he's had some time with the team. I believe he got in late Monday night, if I'm not mistaken. And from everything I know, he is expected to play tonight. And just early notes I've heard of just from shoot around and stuff like that is that he is ready to play. He's excited to be here. Just exchanging some brief messages from him. This is a guy who knows what the opportunity is, what opportunity is at hand, and I fully expect he's going to be ready to go tonight if he is indeed playing.
Well, let's bring in our guest today, Josh Frey-Sam of the Winnipeg Free Press. He's the Sea Bears beat reporter. Let's bring him into the show. Josh, it's good to see you, buddy. How are you?
Gentlemen, thank you very much. Good to see you both, and I appreciate you guys having me on here this evening. Looking forward to watching some ball once again this evening.
Well, let's start with the first obvious thing because we were just talking about it. Jelani Watson-Gale is back. This is a team that has not really had a lot of struggles in terms of target score time, particularly at home. But anytime you could bring, your first ever closer, a guy that made his name on closing game has to be a good thing. But they are pretty deep at guard right now. What was your initial reaction when you heard of the signing?
Yeah, I think you have to like it, especially with Trayvon Scott. This is a guy now, I'll be honest, Trayvon Scott, I think he'd be the first to admit that his time here, he didn't shoot the ball particularly well as Winnipeg Sea Bear, at least in his second stint with the Winnipeg Sea Bears. He obviously did some good things off the ball, away from the ball that Mike Rainbow coveted. But I think overall it was maybe perhaps a underwhelming stint is the way I would put it in what I watched from Trayvon Scott. Now, when you're getting Jelani Watson-Gale back into this lineup, I think that can only mean good things. And I think that as far as if you can add a scoring threat that maybe Trayvon Scott was expected to add, but I don't think that he provided quite as much as many had hoped. If you can get Jelani Watson-Gale to provide some of that depth scoring opportunity, I think that it can only be a good thing for the Winnipeg Sea Bears. I think about maybe on the depth as far as this second unit, and with Mason Krause running it, Simon Hildebrandt as well. I do wonder how he fits in with the second unit, where Mike Rainbow sees him fitting in, how he plans to use him. Those are all questions I think that we might see answered as early as tonight. But that's going to be kind of the one thing when we talk about getting these new faces into the building in the CBL, which we see constantly in this league. It's a matter of where exactly do you foresee them fitting in? What role do you foresee them having? And Trayvon Scott, it was pretty clear what they foresaw for him. And as I mentioned, I feel like he underwhelmed in that stint. But maybe Jelani can kind of return to that fan favorite prowess and deliver on that once again in a second stint with the Sea Bears.
So you look at, the road woes that they've had and just the game that they've come off. I mean, watching that Calgary game, Josh, it seemed like, it was a good battle. We know Calgary's better than their record at this particular moment. They've made some adjustments. They've got a new coach. They've had some practices. But the way that they came out in the second half, I mean, I don't think it's concerning. I don't think that's a secret to anybody when you allow 36 points in one game, or in one quarter, that is, to a team like Calgary particularly. What were you seeing in that third quarter that just, allowed Calgary to go on that run and build that momentum? Because to me, take away the weird target score time and everything else, the game to me was lost in the third quarter.
No question about it. That was, I don't think it's particularly a close argument in my mind that was the Sea Bears' worst quarter of the season. And it kind of looked like on one end of the court, the Calgary Surge had whatever they wanted on the offensive end, and then on the other end, it looked like there was a lid on the basket for the Winnipeg Sea Bears. They couldn't get anything to fall, and there were a couple of maybe bad habits that kind of started to pop up to rear their head as well. You saw as momentum started shifting. We know that the Winnipeg Sea Bears, and this was a talking point much earlier in the season as far as the offensive rebounding, the defensive rebounding in particular. You saw those ugly habits kind of start to rear their head as far as second, third, fourth on even some possessions, the second chance opportunities, right, come up, and then the Calgary Surge would eventually cash in on that second, third, or fourth opportunity on the offensive end. And so those were kind of the things that would be of most concerning. But listen, I think that one thing that I've noticed this season, Joey and Vic, is that you can kind of tell how much a team is bought in to a coach's message and what he's saying based on the way that they are speaking to the media as well. And you look at Joey, I mean, you've been there all season as well. In talking to Mike Rainbow, what has he preached? It's been defense, and defense will turn to offense. And you talk about, I asked Emmanuel Acott after the game, and he says, listen, it's basketball. Sometimes the ball goes in, sometimes it doesn't go in. And that's why I think defense is our calling card. And when a guy's saying something like that, I think that is a clear indication of the buy-in that's with this team. And so, listen, Mike Rainbow, I think, said it perfectly. There are this is why they don't overreact to a win or a loss, because the fact of the matter is, I don't know how many times I've written in a story this year, resilience, resolve, grit, that the Winnipeg Sea Bears have shown. They've shown it over and over and over again. And this time they just weren't able to dig themselves out of the hole because of maybe some of those bad habits that have reared their head. But having said that, as Mike Rainbow said, it was just one game. And, they hope that they can just kind of they can correct this and get back on the winning path tonight.
Yeah, for those just joining in, thanks for tuning in, Vic. Before you ask your question, I just want to play this clip for you, Josh, because you kind of alluded to this, but this was what Mike Rainbow had to say a day after the game at practice before they took off, calling it a wake-up call. Here's the clip.
Opportunity for us to really look at the details of the game and say, hey, some of these things maybe we were getting away with in some of the games that we had won previously. So hopefully a little bit of a wake-up call in terms of, hey, attention to detail needs to continue to improve. And our compete level needs to move forward.
So he's saying there, right? We might have been getting away with some of the stuff in the past, particularly, on the road in the games that they have won. We've seen it a little bit here. You talked about the grittiness, and I just want to get your take on the fine line between, gritty wins, but allowing it get to that grit. I mean, there's been times where they're putting themselves in their situation where they need to be gritty. I mean, where do you draw that line? Do you lean on the side of, hey, it's great that they're coming out with these, tight wins more often than they're not? Or is this a thing where, eventually you're going to get burned if you're playing with that fire?
Yeah, and that is absolutely the thing, is that you will eventually get burned, especially when you get to the playoffs and you start playing some of these upper echelon teams consistently night in, night out, and you're playing maybe we'll see in how the scheduling works and whatnot, but depending on how closely you're playing these games and whatnot. I tend to personally, I think that there is something to, in my opinion, just thinking from an athlete's perspective, thinking about as myself, a former athlete, I should call myself at this point, actually. But I kind of started to think to myself, yeah, I mean, are you playing with fire sometimes and could you get burned? Yes. But I think there is something to, listen, we can there's almost this belief that if when push comes to shove, and doesn't matter how big the deficit is, if you believe that you can get out of it, then you can get out of it. And sure enough, there obviously, again, this was one of those nights. And I think that I like the fact that Mike Rainbow said, that is a potential wake-up call for the team, because maybe that is one of those things that will help them turn the tide here and get out of some of these little slumps that they get into throughout the game. Having said that, though, as well, basketball is one of those games. I mean, we talk about it's a game of runs, right? And I mean, there are certain mistakes that you cannot make during those runs, right? Even if a team goes on a run, it is what it is. But there are certain mistakes that you cannot make during those runs. But I do think there is something to the fact that this team has kind of shown that never say die mentality over and over and over again. But it is one of those things where, man, if you keep leaning on that and you keep playing with the fire, you get closer and closer and closer, especially when we're talking about playoffs. I mean, you have to think that you're eventually going to get burned. And those one of those things. I'm not sure what the answer is, but at this point in time, that's something that they have 7 games, including tonight, to figure out.
We're joined by Josh Frey-Sam of the Winnipeg Free Press. Vic, I've asked a million questions here, and everybody's saying, Joey, please let Vic talk. Vic, it's up to you, buddy.
Yeah, no, I mean, first of all, I totally agree with everything Josh was saying there. I think it starts tonight for them, honestly, and the opportunity is definitely there. Just looking at Sask on paper, and of course they are a bit of a different team, as most teams are in this league from where they were at the beginning of the season. But this is a team that gives up more points than anybody else. They turn the ball over more than anybody else. Saskatchewan, I mean. And the Sea Bears forced more turnovers than anybody else. They're one of the best defensive teams in the league, and they're going to need to be that tonight because Sask can, as we all know, really fill it up. They take and make the most threes in the league. So they cannot have another night where they fall asleep defensively at all, especially on the road. They've already lost in this building. Or actually, no, not in this building because it's a different arena, but, at Saskatchewan nonetheless. So yeah, it's going to be an absolutely huge one. And I think that this is one of those ones where if they respond and they win, convincingly, or just they go in there, look awesome, cool, awesome, no harm done. If they don't, and they kind of lay an egg, or it looks really anything like it did in the third quarter and at other points in Sunday night's game, that's when you start thinking, it's a little scary here.
Yeah, you wonder as well. I do wonder about the road versus home. I mean, I think I heard you guys talking about home court advantage, Joe. I think I heard you mention it before I got on here, and I think that is one of the things. It's almost twofold. You talk about the home court advantage for the Winnipeg Sea Bears and needing that. Obviously, the Sea Bears want that home court advantage, or not only the playoff spot that they could clinch tonight, but the home court advantage throughout the Western Conference and the entire playoffs for that matter, that they want because they have had so much success. I mean, you're talking about a team that I think before that loss to Calgary, were they winning by an average margin like 18 plus points, something stupid at home. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if you guys have that number in front of you, but it was something stupid where they weren't just winning games at home. They were dominating. They were beating the brakes off teams at home. And so I think that is one of those things. Not only is it important because of how comfortable they are, but also it's on the other end. If you're any other team in the Western Conference coming through and having to go on the road, this is, I think, the last place you want to play on the road in Winnipeg. And because of not only the fans, but of how comfortable this Winnipeg Sea Bears team has shown that they are on the road, the path to beating the Sea Bears, I mean, aside from that game against Calgary, has been if you can get them on the road so far, right? That is where you can get them uncomfortable and you can kind of start to expose some stuff and really have a fighter's chance. Outside of that, beyond the egg that they kind of laid in for that 10-minute stretch at home, really they have not really shown much cracks in the armor. And so to Vic's point, just with tonight and how important it is, I think this is an opportunity for the Winnipeg Sea Bears beyond clinching a playoff spot. I mean, you really got to continue to build momentum as far as, and confidence overall, that mental confidence as far as what you guys are capable of doing on the road come playoff time.
Just want to point out, Tyler Penner says on the comments, no disrespect to JWG because having him back is great, but is there really a replacement for Trayvon Scott's minutes already on the roster? For those that may have missed that, Trayvon Scott has signed in Germany, so he's been released from the team. Still no Xavier Moon. He's not going to be playing tonight. Still trying to figure that stuff out, Josh. I mean, the Sea Bears have played really well. All things considered, they haven't really allowed this Xavier Moon stuff to become a distraction. We know that this isn't on him. He wants to play. The Sea Bears want him to play. This is a Russian Basketball Federation thing and the clearance to allow him to play for the Sea Bears. But like I said earlier, they're still pretty heavy at guard. And Trayvon Scott was a great sixth man for the Winnipeg Sea Bears. Who do you expect to step up here now that they don't have not only a guy with NBA experience, but with starting experience in the NBA?
Yeah, I think, you talk about Jelani coming in. I mean, that is wealth of guard experience, especially with the way Mason Krause has been playing. But I mean, you're talking about maybe leaning on some of your other Canadian talent at that point. I mean, depending on how Mike Rainbow wants to throw out these lineups, whether it's Simon Hildebrandt. I mean, we saw Simon Hildebrandt has started to really step up offensively for this team in recent games as well. So I personally look to a guy like Simon Hildebrandt, at least in the meantime, and what he's able to do. Not only he's kind of been, it's been interesting with Simon because he has been really not relegated is the wrong word, but he has kind of been just staying on the perimeter a lot of the time. And aside on the offensive end, I'm saying he has been defending down in the post a lot. But I think that there is something to maybe more there that we heard as soon as he came back from the NCAA and how he's added this to his bag as far as being able to get to the rack. He's added on size, he's added on strength. And yes, he's shown that at times, don't get me wrong. But there's been a lot of him in the way what he's being asked to do is being pushed to the outside and him having to hit the three ball, which he's very good at. But I do wonder if there's just even more that you can get out of a Simon Hildebrandt here in the meantime. I mean, if you want to talk about Xavier Moon, we can talk about Xavier Moon. But this is that's an interesting situation on its own as well.
Yeah, well, and to be fair, I mean, Hildebrandt's role has varied this year, and to his credit, he's filled in where he's needed to. He's had his season high 21 points 2 games ago, but now the toll is set right now for him. And Vic, I think you'd agree. I mean, this is a guy who, for 2 years as a college kid, was a contributor to this team and a key component to the Sea Bears' success in year one, particularly. Now there's a little more pressure on him. He's a guy who's got 2 years of NCAA experience. He's been to March Madness. And, now, it's been relatively quiet overall offensively. And I think this is an area now where he's not only coming off the bench to give those minutes from Trey Scott, also a valuable Canadian to have on the floor when he's playing at his best.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think he's one of the main people who stands to benefit from Trayvon's departure here. I think we're definitely going to see more of him. Just looking at it here, he's averaging 16 minutes a game this year. Simon is. And yeah, well, that definitely is a smaller role than we've seen from him in years past. I actually think he's been awesome this year in that role. I think he's done a lot of huge things for this team. I think even just offensively, when maybe he isn't even touching the ball so much, he spaces the floor really well. He's one of those guys you can't ever ignore him. So I think he's definitely someone who's going to benefit and probably see an uptick in playing time. I would also say the same for guys like Emmanuel Acott, almost certainly Nate Balamu potentially. Mm-hmm. But I think the main one, honestly, and the biggest question mark really here is DJ Burns. Just looking at it right now, this is a guy who, as an American import, has only been averaging 9 minutes per game. But is kind of becoming a bit of a fan favorite over these last few games. He's a dude who plays with a lot of energy, a lot of emotion. He fires up the crowd, stuff that Winnipeg loves to see for sure. And he's just one of those guys who, from a play style perspective, he's going to go out there, he's going to fight, he's going to claw, a real Winnipeg type of guy. But now is really going to be the time where, jumping from 9 minutes to maybe, potentially 20 or more sometimes. I think we'll see a lot of that tonight, potentially, kind of what that role is going to look like. It's really going to be a matter of, can he step up and play a bit of a bigger role? Can he do more things? Can he add a little bit more offensively? I think that's going to be a huge question that we're potentially going to get the answer for as early as tonight.
I think to your point, Vic, as well, if I could just jump in, Joey, I love the DJ Burns poll. And I think that DJ Burns is actually, the last 2 games in particular, kind of been the reason why the Sea Bears were able to pull out a victory, or at least part of the reason why the Sea Bears were able to pull out a victory in the game before. And then a part of the reason why they were even in the game from an energy perspective against Calgary. Well, the reason why they were able to get back into that game, DJ Burns has provided some great sparks on the floor as far as from an energy perspective in the last 2 games in particular that I've noticed. The thing that you got to be concerned about is, as you mentioned, he's not necessarily the offensive weapon that Trayvon Scott was supposed to be for the Winnipeg Sea Bears, at least. But DJ Burns, at the very least, he kind of provides a lot of those plays that don't make the box score necessarily, right? And he provides some of those invaluable plays in that respect. And so, but I do like the DJ Burns poll. The one that I do like in particular, though, was Emmanuel Acott. And I think Emmanuel Acott, if you want to talk about just X factor, regardless going forward, I think all en route the rest of the season to potentially a championship run for the Sea Bears, I think Emmanuel Acott might be the answer to that, just based on what he is able to do and what he's asked to do. And if he can kind of continue to work his way back from that ankle injury and provide some of those offensive numbers that we saw pre-ankle injury as well. So I like DJ Burns, but I think I almost like Emmanuel Acott even more as far as him stepping up and returning to what he was doing earlier in the season.
And before I let you go, Josh, we talked a little bit about Saskatoon. That's who they're playing tonight. We mentioned chance to clinch that playoff berth. But more importantly than that to me is not only the playoff berth, but not sweeping the season series, winning the season series and taking away a tiebreaker. Again, it would take a lot for the Winnipeg Sea Bears to fall in a position where they have to worry about that with Saskatoon. But there's still, 8 games left or whatever it is. So, to take care of business, they've already have the tiebreaker with Calgary. They swept the season series with Edmonton. If they can win tonight, you really just have to narrow your focus in on keeping pace or keeping, I guess, Vancouver at arm's length with the Bandits moving forward. What do they have to do tonight? We know that Saskatoon is a good 3-point shooting team. They've got Tevian Jones, former Sea Bear, a guy that always likes to go up against his former teams. And then you've got Tavian Dunmartin, who's one of the most exciting guys to watch in the CBL, in my opinion. What are you looking for tonight?
Yeah, Vic referenced it a little bit earlier with regards to Seattle's 3-point attempts and their shooting. And I think with that, though, the thing that I look to, I'm going to go back to the defensive rebounding and in how when those long 3 balls miss, because they are inevitably going to miss, and everybody crashes to the boards. And if they cannot come up with that, and you see the eventual offensive rebound, the kick out, to the three again, and then an open three on the follow-up chance is something that will happen over and over again, that has happened in the Sea Bears over and over again. So I have to go to rebounding, and that's something that, once again, we have seen over and over again. When the Sea Bears are at their worst this season, that is the thing that kind of continues to rear its ugly head. And so if you can get that, especially on the road, and you have the momentum and the crowd against you, taking away some of those second chance opportunities that are going to lead to those open looks on the perimeter, those are things that I think can really take a crowd out of it, and allow you to control the game as much as possible on the road. And so that it to me, the one area, it doesn't matter where you look, to me, if the thing that kind of continues to stick out like a sore thumb, if you would, for the Sea Bears, to me, is their rebounding offensively and defensively as a collective. I think that has to be the key to them controlling the game and dictating pace and dictating how they want this game to go.
Josh Frey-Sam of the Winnipeg Free Press. He is the Free Press Sea Bears beat reporter. Josh, before we let you go, where can people find you?
You can find me at JFrysam, JFRUISAM, on X, formerly known as Twitter. All handles, actually, all social media. You could find me on at that. And maybe a shameless plug. Can I shamelessly plug an NFL thing? Can I
plug away, guy?
We're talking about basketball here. I mean, a lot of people don't know maybe that I'm a football guy at heart. Okay, I'm an NFL guy. You can visit, if you guys are looking for fantasy football stuff, you can find it at the Back Bacon Brief. Is my newsletter, and you can see that on all my socials. You can find that link in the bio. If you're looking to win your fantasy league this year, give a follow on that newsletter. But other than that, that's all I got, man. Follow the work at the Free Press, where we got a lot of sports getting covered over there.
I was gonna say, I like the subtle nod to being Canadian. The Back Bacon.
What is it?
Sorry, back bacon.
Back Bacon Brief. We keep it triple B's here, man, and then that's that way. We keep it short. We try and keep it as short as possible in the morning. It's in your inbox at 5 a.m. It's just something, a quick read while you're sipping on your morning coffee. That's all it is.
He's working all the time. All right. Appreciate that. Yeah. Check that out. Back Bacon Brief. And of course, you can follow his work on the Winnipeg Free Press. He's at every game, and he'll be watching tonight. Josh, thanks for joining us here today, man. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, fellas. Appreciate it. Have a great night.
All right. That was Josh Frey-Sam from the Winnipeg Free Press. And he brought up a lot of great points. I just want to bring this up, Vic, while we're here. The just talking about. Sorry, there we go. Bringing up just how Saskatoon stacks up right now. Tevian Jones is averaging 20 points a game. Tavian Dunmartin 17. Jalen Williams, I believe he's still away at Summer League, so he won't be active tonight, which is huge. For the Sea Bears, another former Sea Bear. But Jameer Chaplin's played well as well. And then you've got Jaden Bediako, who's a rebound machine. Where is he here? He's averaging almost 10 rebounds a game. But you were right. The thing you mentioned was the three-point shooting. And for me, here's the thing. I think the signal for me is if you see someone like Tevian Jones, Tavian, the fact that they play on the same team is ruining me.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you look at these two players, to me, the sign is once Tevian Jones starts taking the hero shots, you kind of have the game in hand, right? If you can disrupt him and make him feel like this game is out of hand, he will start putting up shots. That's when you know that the momentum's in your favor. But my goodness, man, like Tavian Dunmartin, Mighty Mouse, if you will. I know it's Damon Stoudemire's nickname, but I think he's the CEBL's Mighty Mouse. I don't know if I've ever seen a player, at least in live action, that can play, not only shoot from the logo, but also a guy that can create his own space inside and use his size to his advantage, considering he's one of the smallest guys in the history of the CEBL to play. But, as much as Tevian Jones is, their go-to guy with the scoring, I think you have to maintain Tavian Dunmartin, because if he starts putting that game in high gear and you're just running a track meet, that could be trouble, especially when they're playing. I should mention this too. They're playing at Merlis Belcher Place, which is the new arena that's a little smaller, makes for a lot better of an atmosphere. So it's actually going to be a bit of an intimidating and loud atmosphere tonight, I imagine, in Saskatoon.
Yeah, I've actually heard great early returns from that building. I think a lot of the fans are pretty pumped about being in there, and they feel the same way that the atmosphere is going to be better. Totally with you on some of their key guys. Tavian Dunmartin, to me, is just one of those guys where, like, if you're going to give him space to shoot, he is going to. And if he gets hot, he is really going to be able to hurt you. I really appreciate the comment here.
I need to put that up for you.
Shout out to the Huskies, the best team in the history of Peg City Div 10. Even though we did not win the championship, we lost in overtime. Target score in the finals. Some questionable foul calls en route to that. Just want to mention that. Anyways, nonetheless, Tavian Dunbarton is just one of those guys who you just cannot give opportunities to shoot. He can absolutely kill you, and if he's flying that night, he might shoot 15 threes, and he might make 8 of them. He's just one of those dudes. And Tevian Jones, of course, a guy you Sea Bears fans are completely, obviously very familiar with, having a great year in the CBL. And he's a guy who he's had a few times this year where he started playing hero ball and the shots were going in. So like they have a few guys on their team where if they're both going tonight, the Sea Bears defense better be on the ball because they're just one of those teams that can really, really hurt you.
Yeah, I put up a poll there too. I should have put Emmanuel Acott in it, but it's really hard when you're doing this thing while you're working and producing this thing. But yeah, we had who do you think has more of a chance to step up for Trey Scott leaving? It's 50-50 right now for Simon Hildebrandt. But there are other options. Emmanuel Acott being one. And then this is Cam putting in need more Kyler. As in Kyler Filowich. Have a Kyler and JTT on at the same time for that big lineup. You know what? Could be one of the other guys that can step up. He had a good game. Was it last game or the game before? I think it was the Edmonton game where they were really depleted and they were playing more Canadians than normal at one time. And, he had a couple of big field goals, some big rebounds. Definitely a guy that can step up. He's had some success in the league, but I mean, bit of a pie in the sky for me for Kyler Filowich right now. He just hasn't had the playing time to kind of have that impact. Maybe he hasn't now with Trey Scott, but Emmanuel Acott, I think to me is a guy that can really step up here in this game. I also want to bring this up because it's a great point from Tyler Penner. Jameer Chaplin averaging 20 over his last 3 games, including 26 in their win over Calgary. He has been playing great. The problem is if he's playing great, they're not winning. So they have 1 win in the last 4 games or last 5 games rather. So, I mean, this is a team that is desperate, but a great point nonetheless. Jameer Chaplin, we've even seen him here, when he starts feeling he could be a streaky shooter and can be a game changer for Saskatoon. But I think if you're the Sea Bears, you're not really concerned by that. I think the biggest thing for Winnipeg is aggressive defense, not letting Tavian Dunbarton get settled into the offense, not letting him get on the run, kind of, because the one thing Winnipeg is good at is just transition in general, right? Whether that's from the defensive end or the offensive end. But that I think is going to be key tonight against a team with speed like the Mamba. And if Tevian Jones gets out on the run on the wing, right, with Tavian, I mean, they can put up some fireworks and get that momentum from the crowd. But I think for me, it's going to be imperative for the Sea Bears to establish themselves defensively and slow down the run. I mean, they're going to have to figure out a way to crash the boards, but also have that safety back to make sure that, if there is a missed shot, they're not allowing Saskatoon to get out on the run.
For sure. Yeah. And I think a lot of it is going to come down to that first quarter. We've spoken previously about how just they've had some slow starts on the road and just really not getting into things offensively early. I think today's an opportunity where, for everything that we could say, and it's all true about, what Sask can do and the talent that they have. This is also a team that gives up 100 points per game. And these are 40-minute games. Like, that's a lot of points to give up. They turn the ball over more than anybody, and we steal the ball. Like, we force more turnovers than anybody. So for the Sea Bears, it's like I think there's an opportunity here where if they show up, with a chip on their shoulder from Sunday's loss, they start off hot, get firing early. They could really get rolling right off the bat, and who knows? Like, the game could be out of sights if all goes well after the first quarter. This team is good enough to do that.
I just put you on full screen because we got a guest behind you there. Who's that?
That is Nova. That is our cat.
Yeah. Nova. That's our special guest analyst today. Oh, no. Sorry, Vic. I took you off again. Sorry, pal. I'm hitting the wrong button. I wanted to bring this up from Tyler as well, because we talked about those close games, Winnipeg's had on the road for the most part, right? Those like 1-2 possession games aside from 2 games. And I kind of expect the thing tonight. I think it would be a real statement. Here's what I'm looking out for. I anticipate, based on historical, data from this season, is it'll be a close game.
Yeah.
If they can fix that start, though, and, if they do have a lead, close it in target time early, that would be huge, because I do think this is a chance, and this is what I'm watching for, the statement. Cam had said earlier, where is it? Put it up on the screen. Yeah, the home court is key. What is the chance of the wake-up call actually being received? And that is the $1 million question. It was a quick turnaround, and like, this is a bit of a gauntlet too. While you're talking, I'll get into the schedule to show people, but I think for me, the key here, and I know this is broken record stuff, but it's the start. This has been from the get-go. They've found themselves in close games simply because it's almost like an engine in the winter. We all live in Winnipeg. I'm assuming most of the viewers here are living in Winnipeg. We know what it's like to start the car in January and February when you're parked outside, right? The engine might turn over, but you need to let that baby warm up. And the problem is there's turning over the engine at tip-off, and it takes them about a quarter to get warmed up before they really start getting their groove on the road. So to me, that's what I'm looking out for. The best way to make a statement is just get that good start and let the chips fall where they may there.
Yeah, totally. I completely agree. I think it's going to be interesting. I think we'll know right off the bat kind of how this team is going to respond. I feel like it was kind of an unprecedented loss on Sunday, and we're going to know a whole lot about what this team is made of just based on how things start early tonight. But I have a lot of optimism going into it. Just I think we've seen this Sea Bears team make in-game adjustments a lot more than previous iterations. We've seen things like where, they start going on a run, they get a few easy buckets, and there's a timeout, a change of shape, and things look different after the timeout. I think this is a really well-coached, really well-organized team, and I think that, I really do expect that we're going to see that early tonight. I'll go on record right now. I think this is going to be a strong Sea Bears performance, and I think they're going to get off and running pretty early in the start.
And just taking a look at the schedule here. So the Sea Bears tonight, Wednesday, July 15th, playing at Merlis Belcher Place in Saskatoon. Chance to win the season series. It's 2-1. They won the 2 home games. They lost the game on the road in Saskatoon. And then, so that's on Wednesday. So they played Sunday, practiced Monday, left Tuesday, play Wednesday. Okay, so that's been the sequence so far. So they play tonight, 8:30 start local time in Saskatoon. After that, they leave tomorrow and they go directly to Calgary for the rematch again. Calgary's not played since that last game against Winnipeg, so they'll be well rested. Another 8:30 start local time. It'll be 7:30 in Calgary, and then again next morning on the road on Saturday for a Sunday game back home. When I say on the road, traveling, they're playing at home, but they're back home on Sunday playing the Montreal Alliance. And Montreal is a team that is also desperate right now. They're a team that is found themselves suddenly in last, even though they played really well. This isn't a testament to how bad they played. It's just how incredibly tight the Eastern Conference is right now. But after that, again, they play Sunday. They have a few days off. Thankfully, they're at home. It's a 3-game stand at home. They'll play Vancouver. That will be a very important game because that's the team that they will likely be jockeying for position and home court advantage in the conference finals if they get there. And then it's on Saturday, they finish off with a national game. That's on the 25th. So little while away, but then they finish with that game. Brampton at home, again, another team who is suddenly desperate after a hot start at 9-9. Who knows what their record will be at that time. Then they have a bit of a break before they have to play another game against Ottawa. That'll be their last home game of the season. But to me, this is the most important game of this 3-game stand, if we segment it that way, because it just puts Saskatoon out of your hair for a while.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you mentioned, a chance to seal the season series. I think, like this is a tough stretch here, but it's also just a huge opportunity for this team. If they can win these next 2 games and go into Sunday, big homestand, having, we're coming back after losing these 2, and just, kind of show the hometown fans here's what we're about. I think that would be a huge opportunity. I also just think that game in Calgary, I expect them to really come out with a chip on their shoulder. They know they shouldn't have lost that game in Winnipeg, and I think they're going to really, really be hunting for blood in Calgary in that game. I also just want to throw another note on. Tyler, you're right. Please list the number of teams in the league that aren't desperate. Yeah, honestly, and that's part of the beauty of this league is just things are tight. Like anybody can beat anybody. Look at the East right now. Like there's
there's one team not desperate. They're called the Scarborough Shooting Stars. And I'll also throw in that Winnipeg and Vancouver. So there's 3 teams that are not desperate. And I will say Brampton shouldn't be desperate, but they've been terrible as of late. Looking at their last 5 games, they're 2-3. But I bet you if you go on, well, they were 10-0, 7-0 to start the season. So they're 2-9 if you look at their last 11 games. So things are falling at the seams in Brampton. Sorry, Vic, go ahead.
No, you're good. And also about that Sunday game, just as far as like knowing what the future looks like for this team. That is the last game that basically if Xavier Moon is going to play for the Sea Bears this year, he better be in the lineup on Sunday, because you need to play 5 games to be eligible for the playoffs. That's our 5th last game, if I'm not mistaken here, if my math's right. So that is going to be a very, very interesting one for Sea Bears fans everywhere. Is Xavier Moon in the lineup on Sunday? And if he's not, well, then, we're obviously the group right now is going to have to be good enough to get it done. And I think they are good enough to get it done for sure. I think they've shown that. There's some really good players. We've already mentioned like some really strong guards on this team, obviously adding another one with Jelani. But I think that, while they are so deep in the guard positions, this is also a team that you can see where they've needed a point guard at times. Another ball handler that can kind of create, just splice the defense, especially in the half court. And I think Jelani is gonna play a lot of that role for this team. I'm really, really excited to see how Mike Rainbow envisions using him. And if Xavier Moon is in the lineup, that opens up a whole bunch more questions about who's playing. They're still over the import limit at that point. How does the guard rotation look like? Mason Krause, a guy who's been so awesome for this team this year, where does he fit into it? A lot of Sea Bears questions are going to be answered here over these next, not even a week, next like 4 or 5 days.
Yeah, we're coming up on 8 o'clock, so about a little more than half an hour until tip-off. That's on CBC Sports YouTube, CEBL Plus, CBC Gem. A couple more minutes if you want to get your, before I close the poll, just wondering who you guys think will be the best to step in for Trey Scott and take up those minutes in that production. If it's option 3, I think the way it works, you just put 1, 2, or 3 in your comments. It'll pop up on there. And if you want, you could add in who you think the third person is. We talked a lot about Emmanuel Aycott, Kyler Filowich. There's a number of players, but you got another couple minutes here. Again, the tip-off is at 8:30. I guess, your final thoughts here, because I know you got to go, Vic. If we look at, who you're looking out for, I want to know your key player and who you think your target score winners will be. Who's going to on each team if you want.
Okay. Yeah, I'll definitely go on each team. I think it kind of goes back to the topic that we were discussing with Josh of just kind of who has the biggest opportunity to step up. Exactly the poll you're running right now. I think it's going to be one of those guys who's kind of the key player. And I'm going to go with DJ Burns. Just being an American import, I think that's a guy who's probably going to see, if I had to guess, twice as many minutes as he's averaging so far this season. I think he's going to have a bigger role tonight. I think it's going to be pivotal, not only for the result of today's game, but kind of for knowing what we have going forward. How big of a role can he take on? Can he do a little bit more offensively while still kind of maintaining some of the energy, some of the fire? It's also going to be an away game for that. So, no fun hyping up with the crowd, one would imagine. But I think that he's going to be absolutely integral to kind of determining this team's ceiling going forward. Emmanuel Aycott is probably the most like for like Trayvon replacement, so he's going to be huge too. But I think for DJ, just being an import and all the stuff surrounding that, I think that he's going to be pretty huge just going forward in general. So target score winners today. I'm going to go with Jelani Watson-Gale on the Winnipeg Sea Bears. Yeah. I've seen it too many times, and it might be a boring answer almost, but I don't know, maybe it's a fun one. But for me, it's fun. I think Jelani is just a guy who, like, we've seen him show up in these big moments so many times. I just think he's going to show up ready to play. I'm just predicting a big night from him. Honestly, if you look at the guard lineup, you'd almost question, like, hey, who's not playing in target time if Jelani is? So those are some questions that I'm very fortunate to not have to be the one to figure out the answers to. So I'm curious to see what Mike Rambo decides to go with there. But I'm going to go with Jelani on the Sea Bears end. And just because it would have to be, I'm going with Tevian Jones on Saskatchewan, because people who used to play for the Sea Bears cook the Sea Bears. It's just is how it goes. We saw it on Sunday with Armani Chaney. Guys play against Winnipeg with a chip on their shoulders when they used to play here. I fully expect Tevian Jones is going to show up tonight and put together a hell of a performance. And if they do win, I feel like he's going to be the primary reason why.
And I just closed the poll, so dead even. Some people want Hildebrandt, other Burns, and someone else. We've talked Acott, Filowich. It'll be interesting because there isn't really a clear-cut guy that can take care of that. So thanks for everybody that took part in the poll. My players to look out for, I think, from a game perspective, I'm going to say Tevian Jones. I think, I keep talking about Tavian Dunmartin, but I think Jones is poised for a big game today. So is Chaplin. But I'm going to go with Jones, just piggybacking on what you were saying, just that, the connection to the Sea Bears. And then I'm going to say my target score winner, Tavian Dunmartin on Saskatoon, if Saskatoon were to win. On the Sea Bears side, Teddy Allen. I'm looking for a bounce back game from him, which is weird to say. He still had, I think, 28 points in that game? It was a lot of decent game, but it just wasn't traditional Teddy game. He was forcing up a lot, mainly because, he had to. No one was really, I think they only had like 3 players with double digits scoring that game. So I expect a big game from Teddy Allen. Also played for the then Rattlers, so maybe there's a little revenge tour. I don't think so, but I think he's gonna have a big game nonetheless. And I'm gonna jump on your closer. I think Jelani Watson-Gale is gonna want to make a huge statement tonight. If you can get a target score winner, that's the best way to do it. That is your reputation in this league. But it was 3 years ago, right? This was in year 1. He hasn't played since. And even from a Saskatoon standpoint, I don't know how much, these guys know about him, because they've had multiple coaching turnovers. None of these coaches, except for maybe one of the assistants, has coached in the league before this. So he's primed to make a statement in this game. So we'll see if that's the case. And again, yes, Xavier Moon not playing. And to your point, Vic, I wanted to touch on this before we wrap this up. But Sunday, the game at home, is the big one, because if he's not in the lineup in that one, whoever's not in the lineup in that one that hasn't played yet will not be eligible, because you have to play those 5 games. So it would start with that one, and then you would have to play in every single game, at least suit up in every single game, be on the active roster from then until the last game on August 2nd in order to be eligible for the playoffs. And I think that's another big reason why, I was talking to one FIBA professional basketball player that, was familiar with FIBA, and they were saying that with the whole Trey Scott thing and going to Germany so early, like normally August 1st is kind of the earliest guys will start to report. So they thought it was a little bit early, but the key to that though is that you open up the import spot, right? He's not risking injury. He was coming off the bench. I don't believe this was any kind of friction with this. It was just, hey, I have this contract. Sea Bears are probably looking at it like, okay, well, if we free you now, we can slot in an import player like a Jelani Watson-Gale without having to worry about it. We talked about DJ Burns having an opportunity to step up. Another guy who's probably keeping a close eye on the Moon thing because of the having enough imports, right? They can only have 6-5 on the active roster. So, that's a guy that, emotional run for this team. I think he brings more than scoring and just the defense. I think it's what he's able to do in those minutes and get the crowd and his team into it. He's always positive. He's always fired up. But yeah, so this Moon thing, everybody wants to see it conclude. I mean, everybody would like to see him play. But I think generally speaking, they just want to move forward, whether that's with or without them. The Sea Bears have done a great job kind of putting it to the side, preparing like he's not there and he hasn't been there. Players have stepped up. Trey McGowan's, as mentioned earlier, set the single season assist record. I think it was with 88, overtaking Justin Wright Foreman. So they played well. Guys have got their numbers. I don't think there's going to be any friction. I believe if Moon plays, he will slot right in and it will be better than it was. And that's not to say that it's bad. He's just that elite of a player. So, we'll have to keep an eye on Moon. Don't expect to see him here tonight. And, this is a big game. Sea Bears taking on the Mamba in Saskatoon. It's the last meeting between these two teams this regular season at 8:30. Vic, appreciate you coming here today and doing this Winnipeg Sports Weekly crossover. Now, you should have plugged this before the show. I'm sorry, buddy, but big night coming up on Sunday for Winnipeg Sports Weekly too. Maybe you want to share some details.
Yeah, absolutely. We're doing WSW night at the Sea Bears game against the Alliance on Sunday, which has been moved to 5:00. By the way, if anybody was scared of that conflicting with the World Cup final, as I was when I found out, it's at 5:00. They're going to be doing a showing for it at the pregame party, which everybody should check out. The pregame party is awesome. So if you want to go to that beforehand, you can see the game. But we've got a whole section. We're all going to be kind of sitting together. There's obviously an opportunity to just kind of, just talk Bears, talk Winnipeg sports, hang out. And you can also save 20% off on your game day tickets for that game. The link is in both the Winnipeg Sports Weekly story and the bio if you guys are interested in that.
And as mentioned, Montreal technically in last place in a three-way tie. Three teams in the bottom half of that standings, or bottom, whatever, not half, but I know Tyler's going to jump on it. Ooh, half and five. I know Tyler. I know the bottom half in the closest thing I can say right now, three-way tie. So Montreal's a great team. They've been overachieving, you can say, after losing Freeman Liberty rather. So this is a team that, everybody kind of counted out to in the East and has had a run. So good game. Good company. I love the work that you do. And just plug it again, your Instagram handle, so people can follow you on socials.
Yeah, for sure. Super simple. Just at Winnipeg Sports Weekly on Instagram. Just click the link in the bio, or check out the story. The link is there for WSW night, and then just our general flat 10% off ticket link for the Sea Bears as well. If anyone's interested in saving a few bucks and checking out a game as we kind of head into the real pivotal games here to wrap up the season.
All right, so tip-off is just a little bit more than 20 minutes away. Enough time for you to go grab a snack, a drink, whatever you need to do. Get prepared for the game. It's on CBC Gem, CBC Sports YouTube, as well as CEBL YouTube page, and on CEBL Plus. I will be back at least for a little bit. Maybe we'll wrap up a post-game show. So if you're here, you can put it in the comments if you want. Well, I see you there. I'd love to see you there if you tuned in. Remember, if you've liked this, keep the notifications on. We're going to do this for the rest of the season, at least where we can. There might be some games. I think that afternoon game, Vic, might be tough for me because I'll be doing the sidelines for CBC, but we'll try our best. Give it a like, give it a subscribe, share it. Love to hear the comments and feedback. You can follow me at Joey Slattery TV. Love getting into the DMs and talking basketball. If I don't get back to you, sometimes it takes a while, but I'll get there eventually. And at Target Score Pod for the Target Score Instagram pages, where, of course, we have our weekly Target Score Winnipeg podcast. We just had a live show with Taylor Allen and myself. Go check that out. It's on YouTube right now. The audio version coming out tomorrow. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I'm glad to have you guys all along here. And as I mentioned, post-game show, Vic, if you enjoy the game, slow it up, pause for me. Make sure he's behaving himself. I'm glad to hear that he's helping out. He's one of the videographers that has come back to do some work. We'll see you in a little bit. Thanks, Vic. Talk to you soon.